So we're going to move on to hear from a more established transition group now. We're going to be going over to hear from Margaret from Transition Town Liverpool. So Margaret has a background in health and education. She joined her local Transition Towns group in Liverpool in 2009 after having been at a weekend gathering about climate change where the transition movement was mentioned. Since then, she's helped with Transition Liverpool's monthly transition cafes and annual gatherings. And she's currently chair of Transition Liverpool and oversees 3 of their projects. So she's going to talk about some of the highs and lows of the Transition Liverpool journey and also how things got started in the beginning. So Margaret, I will hand over to you.
Hi, thank you very much, Rhiannon. It's good to be with you today. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and talk about some of the aspects of the work that we've done as a transition group. And I'd want to stress that although I'm the person giving the talk, this has only been possible because we're a team. So this isn't a picture of where I was at my first meeting, but the first meeting that I went to, and I found out about the local transition group because I saw it online on their website. It was in a local cafe that people had managed to hire for free, providing we took our own food and drink along. And a lot of emphasis was placed on getting to know each other and the skills that each person in the group had. And it always felt that people cared because someone took a cake each time. For some reason, that seemed to be really important. The spirit was at that stage to welcome new people as they joined, and this was the core group. And although it slowed progress, it really helped to build the group, and we felt we gelled. There was a lot of work to continue building through advertising on social media, in local libraries and community centres, and just thinking about how we can reach out to all the areas of Liverpool. I'd say that since then, we've had a lot of helpful input from Nick Annim from Transition Brixton, who has some very wise things to say about how to make transition groups inclusive. So we started a lot of things simply. There was an allotment group, an energy group, a health and well-being group, and an education group. And the education group we started very simply. In fact, the first one I went to, we actually showed Transition 1. It was a long time ago. So we did also show the power of community, how Cuba survived peak oil. But the main message that I think I learned was you have to choose things with a positive message, because if you don't, you lose people. People don't want to hear negative stories. All they want to hear is, how can we address this? Not, oh, it's too difficult. So we did showing videos, we arranged talks, we did sort of workshops on make, do and mend, on a whole range of things, reusing plastics, all those sorts of things. We also, as a group, and I think there were somewhere between, I think there were at least 10, there may have been more of us initially. We very early on in my time did something called a visioning exercise, where we thought about where we wanted Liverpool to be in 5 years, in 2030, I think. And at this time, I think we were doing it in 2010. So it was 20 years hence. And what we would need to do so that we could break it down into manageable tasks. I would have to say both that the current visioning tools are really useful, and that although we did do this visioning exercise, we found we had to be very flexible. I'm not sure that we're doing much at the moment of what we thought we would be doing at this point, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a really useful thing to do and didn't take us really a lot further forward at the time. One of the things we learned, and I think Mex really picked this up well, was you just have to keep communicating. You have to set up your social media presence, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and don't be afraid to use flyers and put them in local places. Certainly, soon after I joined, there was a regular monthly newsletter, and that's been one of the things that's really sustained our local group, along with the education group meeting. I think that really kept us going for 12 years. People from different projects would come to that and talk about what they were doing. And it was a platform to meet new people and to encourage them to take initiatives. So that's really how we've kept going. Sometimes we've had no core group for a bit, just the education cafe and people coming to that. At other times, we've had a thriving core group, but you need something. And I think our newsletter and our education group were a thread that has kept going throughout. We've had different people involved in website development. One of the key people in the early days was a person who's now in Edinburgh called Michelle Bastian, who sort of seemed to eat, sleep and breathe, making sure that everything was captured on our website, so that I discovered in the back end a lot of stuff that she'd put that no one would have had access to, that it's some of which I've included in this talk, but it's somewhere stashed away in the early years of the work that we were doing. So the website that we have at the moment really focuses on our three main projects, which are Spark It Liverpool, which is looking at how we can reimagine our streets, how we can put things there that are in parking spaces that are about transition, that are greening the spaces, that are celebratory and create enjoyment. There have been some highs and lows in the journey that I'll come back to later if there's time. There's the Mersey Green Map project, and again there's highs and lows in that. Like, we've just been told that we can't use Green Map because it's trademarked, so we've got to change our name. But we also have had a lot of enthusiasm and support. And there are our transition climate cafes, and we've run 3 of those so far this year. The important thing about building a website is that you have to maintain it, you have to keep doing blogs, and there have been various times, including right now, when there actually isn't enough time to do it all. So I think we've neglected our website quite a bit, but there's still quite a lot of stuff on there. This is just a slide talking about some of the different things, and to remind me to say that the important thing about the transition cafes is that it allows for food and networking. We always had food. We always drew on lots of diverse groups, and we drew on people from other transition groups too. And Nick Drew from Planet Heswall really gave us quite a lot of his time at different times. The key we found was running events and getting people involved. So this is our first symposium, Be the Change, and a picture alongside it of the people who came along. There was a lot of work but a lot came from it. So, it was really great to see people, and the theme of Be the Change, trying to empower people locally to do what they want to do, be the change they want to see. At another symposium, you'll see what we'd now come to call a map jam, with lots of post-it notes up on the top right, and people adding places that they know about that they think we should have on a green map. Green, fair to the planet and fair to people, making sure that that we do support things like Build Back Better. And I put below our first launch of our green map. So just to say things take time, the initial map jam that you can see there was in 2017. The picture below, you'll gather, was in the pandemic because it's over Zoom, and that was in 2020. So don't think just because you do things that it doesn't plant seeds that come to fruition later.
Fantastic. Margaret, that's about 10 minutes there, so perhaps work towards wrapping up. Thank you.
Okay, just a very quick. This is just to say that we network with other people, we call out for help. We are very grateful to some of our partners, Solidarity Economy and Liverpool Quakers, without whom none of this would have been possible. And we've drawn on fundraising from both crowdsourcing and Transition Network. And I put a picture of their funding primer, and we advertise funding as well in our newsletter, just to highlight our two main projects, Spark It and our mapping, and just do stuff, get involved in events, and it will happen. And don't forget to sell the benefits of what you're doing.
Great, thank you so much, Margaret, for sharing, and really good to see the story of a group that's been, around for a much longer period of time and has that arch of ebb and flows of activity and projects, and these groups take time and energy to sustain over the long term, and inevitably go through different phases. So that's really helpful to hear the story there.